All right, you guys, today we got Harjap in the hot seat. We're gonna be doing a fresh cut on Harjap. We're gonna start with the consultation like usual. We're gonna see exactly what he wants to do with the hair, what he wants to do with the beard, and we're gonna go from there. All right, brother, so what can we do for you today?
So just like a mid to high bald fade.
Yep.
And then just like the beard line and trim.
Okay, so with the beard, what are you thinking? You wanna fade the beard in? You just wanna leave it
probably
low
fade
down
in.
or midway? What are you thinking?
Probably fade it in, just at the top here, and then the lineup is high as we can
And I see your neckline is, you get kind of pretty low down. We can bring the neckline up for you.
Yep, that'd be awesome.
Done deal. All right, brother. What I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna start off, I'm gonna do a mid fade for Harjap, and we're gonna fade the beard in. We're gonna bring his neckline up a little bit so it accentuates his jaw more. And then, do you want to put a hard part in the line or just leave the line natural?
I just leave it natural.
Okay, awesome. And we can take a little trim off the top, eh?
Sounds good.
Perfect. All right, so one thing that I like to do when I put the neck strip on is we put the neck strip on the client. I like to have it fully laid out over the neck, no creases in it. So when I put my cape over top of it, I can put the cape on tight, and then I can fold the neck strip over the cape. So then we have a really nice tight sealed fit, so no hairs get down beneath the cape. Like usual, first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna come in and we're gonna use our 1.5 guard. So just to get a nice clean canvas, remove the bulk, see what we're working with, and then we'll go into creating our zero line, which will make our bald line after that. Now Harjap said that he wanted it at midway, so we're gonna make the weight line right here at about his temple, at the top of the C cup. So once we've removed all that bulk, like I said before, I like to use the process of back and forth, and every time I come to one side of the client, I come back to my station, I like to grab my next tool that I'm gonna use. I'm gonna come back around and I'm gonna draw out my zero guideline. So as you can see when I'm doing my fade, I like to keep that first line that I did. I like to make that as straight as I possibly can, because then when I put my zero guideline in, I like to have those lines parallel with one another, and it just shows a good contrast so I can have my fade equal the whole way around. So now once we've removed all that bulk, we don't really have to be super detailed when we're removing the bulk. We just have to get the bulk out of there. We know we're gonna come back with our 00 trimmer. So the 00 trimmer is really where we're gonna get that detailed work, make sure all those little hairs are cleaned up. So with the clipper, we're just getting that bulk out of there. It doesn't have to be perfect. So one thing that you see here is one thing that I like to do when I'm using my 00 trimmer to get it down to that next level of shortness. I like to pull the skin tight, and when we pull the skin tight, there's a little bit of play in the head. When we pull it tight, what it does is it makes it a lot easier for us to get it down to a way shorter level, just like this. Which in turn will make it a lot easier for our foil shaver when we come in to bald it out. All right, so now we got it taken down with our 00. We want to make sure, this is the most important part of your fade, you want to make sure that both of your zero lines are equal on both sides of the head, because if they're not, then you're gonna have a lopsided fade and the client's gonna notice that. So how we check this is just quickly behind the client, we can just see that our lines are nice and equal. This side's a little bit low, so I want to bring this side up just a tad bit. And once we do that, then we're gonna move to our foil shaver. So just like usual, with everything that we do, we set a guideline first. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my foil shaver and create a guideline the whole way around the head. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back through and use both of my foils, and I'm gonna get all that bulk out underneath that guideline that I make. So now we have that nice, clear, visible guideline for our balder. Now I can come back through with both sides of my foiler and just take all that bulk out. Now that we've done that, we completely taken out all the bulk with our foil shaver. One thing that we always want to remember with our foil shaver is that we hit it from all different angles so that it's a complete bald fade. And one thing that you can always test do is you can just feel it with the back side of your finger just to see how the back of the neck is. And we got that right down to the skin. So now one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my 00 trimmer and we're going to pull that skin tight again. And that little line that we have here with our bald and then our 00, I'm gonna pull that skin super tight and I'm gonna come back in again. I'm gonna see how much further down I can take it. So what that does is it just makes it a lot easier for us to break that line with our foil shaver. And for a lot of barbers, it can be a tough thing to do. And that line is hard for them to break from the bald to say your 0 line. So just for example, if you come over here and look, we haven't even hit it with our balder yet and it's pretty much blended. So I just have to come in and just tap that very lightly with my foiler and it'll just be a complete blend, be perfect. Because when we put in our 1.5 guideline and our 0 guideline, both of our lines are parallel. So what I always want to do is in this space between the gap, I want to use my 0.5 no guard. I want to go right halfway in between the gap. Now this is the best way to have consistent fades time and time again is by not changing your process, but by sticking with one process that works every single time. So just like in previous lessons, we're gonna work in sections, we're gonna work on our side, we're gonna work in our back section, we're gonna work in our other side. And when we blend out our fade, what I like to do is I like to work from all the way open to all the way closed. So you'll watch me as I do this on the side, as I blend my fade together. I'm gonna slowly be closing my clipper more and more and more as I make my passes back and forth, which will blend out that hard line that we have created from the difference between our 0 to our 0.5 no guard. And just like that, you can see that we've blended out our line using that simple technique of being fully open and closing our clipper all the way. So now what we're gonna do, since we've done that, we've completed that, that's our blend from our 0 to our 0.5 no guard. What we're gonna do is we're gonna give it a trim on the top. So we're gonna wet the hair down completely and then we're gonna trim the top. So as I'm spraying the water into Hard Jap's hair here, I can see where his growth patterns of his hair are going, in which way his hair wants to naturally grow. So I can see here back in the crown area, his hair wants to naturally grow forward. And this way that we can always tell is with the whirl on the back of the head. So with the whirl, it either goes clockwise or counterclockwise. So with Hard Jap's whirl, it's going clockwise. So that means that it's gonna shoot out his parting so that his hair goes over to the right-hand side. But if his whirl on his head was going counterclockwise, then it would mean that his parting would shoot out and his hair would grow to that side. So we'd want to comb it over that way. But because his hair doesn't go that way, that means that it's being over-directed. So we want to do it the most natural way so it lays the best for him, so he doesn't have any cowlicks or rooster tails standing up. So we comb it over to this side. Right, so now what we're gonna do when we cut the top of the hair here, we're gonna be using a traveling guideline. So first things first, we're gonna find out how much length we wanna take off from our client. And then after that, we're gonna use a traveling guideline, work our way all the way back and different sections of the head. So we're gonna take off maybe about that much there, see if that works with him.
That's perfect.
That's good there? Perfect. So we're grabbing that next section of hair, lifting it up and finding our guideline from what we cut previously, and we're gonna cut that same place. And we always want to remember one thing that I had learned in hairstyling school is we don't want to cut past our second knuckle. As soon as we start to cut past our second knuckle, we kind of lose the leverage of the hair, and it makes it a lot trickier, and that's when the hair starts to bend. So you just want to take small sections at a time. And on our parted side, we always want to remember to over direct that hair and get those long pieces, because if we were to leave those long pieces and comb them over, he'd have a really hard line that you could see once you've dried the hair. And that's always one problem that I see that most barbers make, is they always just trim this side of the hair on their right hand side, because most barbers are right-handed, but they forget about over directing the hair and trimming that hair on the parted side, just because it is a little harder to get your hand over and trim those hairs that are on the left hand side of your head. So we want to make sure to over direct those and get those long ones. Now when I cut the hair on the side of the head, I always want to make sure that my hands are nice and boxy off the head. I don't ever want to cut the hair like this, because that's going to really round the hair cut out. It's not going to keep that shape. We want to keep that nice boxy shape for that masculine look. So what I always do is I just tilt my hands and I make sure that we keep that nice boxy look by keeping that weight. And like always, we're going to comb the bangs down just to see where they're sitting, just to make sure they're not in his eyes. We can see they're a little bit longer, they're right in the middle. So we want to just trim those up just to make sure it's all equal. So one thing we always want to do after we're done our work is we want to ask the client how that feels, just so we don't get to the end of the haircut and then they ask you to take it a little bit shorter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to the parted side and I'm going to put some clips in here. I'm just going to clip the hair over. Now we can see here we got this nice clean ledge that we can blend into, and we don't have to worry about nicking any of our long hairs on the top. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back through and I'm just going to make sure that that 1.5 line is perfectly clean, because that's what we're going to use our 0.5 guard into. That's where we're really going to see our fade pop. So I'm just going to come through, make sure that this line is nice and clean here. So the reason why we want to make sure that that line's nice and clean, we don't really want to have any overhang because it'll cause shadowing. It's going to make it a lot harder for us to see and blend our fade out. So with this is my 0.5. I'm just coming off the head with it. I'm not on the head with it. I'm coming off the head with it, because that's what's going to build that nice boxy shape to the head. If we keep the guard completely and the clipper completely on the head, it's going to round it out. We don't want to do that. We want to build into weight. So I'm keeping it like this off the head. So now as we work into the weight, what we're gonna do now is we're still gonna use the 0.5 guard all the way open, but I'm gonna be aggressively flicking into this weight to really build that weight before I go in with my number 1 guard. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna move to our 1 guard. And with our 1 guard, we're gonna open it up about halfway, just because we flicked out so hard with our 0.5 guard. And we're gonna continue to keep that nice boxy structure and flick it right off the head. All right. So now once we have that done, our fade is pretty much complete. All we have to do is just finish up with clipper over comb, just to get those final details and make sure that haircut's super boxy. So now that we've had the sides blended with our clipper over comb technique, what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in, we're gonna use a little bit of detail work with our thinning shears and our mustache comb, just to get any of those fine little detailed dark spots that we want to get out. And that's really what's going to really finish the fade and make it pop the most. With the back of the head, it's always a good idea to get your client to look down, because it just puts a different type of lighting on any dark spots that you may have within the hair. It'll make it a lot easier for you to get out. So we'll take the clips out now, and I'm going to come through and just clean up all the top of his hairline if there's any little stray hairs that are hanging out, do his C-cups, and get the haircut completely finished. All right, so as we can see here, just if we want to get super specific, it's kind of you know, our part isn't perfect. Even if we take a little couple longer hairs, just so we can get that lineup perfect for him. Because not having a clean part doesn't look good. All right, you guys, so now we're gonna move to the best part. We're gonna get that beard cleaned up. The fade looks super good, nice and clean, but the contrast with the beard not being done, we really gotta get the beard right. You see there's like some long patches, you got some stragglers. All right, how's that like feeling?
Looks good.
Perfect. And what we're gonna do here is we're gonna use the same technique as we did with the haircut, but just with the beard. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in, 0.5 line, I'm gonna slowly close my guard into, instead of working down, I'm gonna work up because we're working into the ball. And we're gonna put our 0.5 guard on, have that open, close it up a little bit, and same thing. So now that we have this side all blended in, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do a lineup. So the lineup is going to be one of the most important parts of doing the beard, and it's really what's going to bring the whole beard together. It's one of my favorite parts to do, is to do a lineup. It really shapes the beard up nicely. So first thing that we want to start with is I want to start with the very bottom of the neckline. Once we have the bottom of the neckline drawn in, then everything else is a cinch. So now what we want to do is we want to get our backside by the ear here. Nice pushing on that. And we'll do the lineup as well. I always like to rough the lineup in with my trimmer. So Harjap said he wants to keep it high, so we'll keep it as high as we can. Alright, like we said before, when we trim the mustache, we always want to use our mustache comb and our trimmer. And one thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that we clean them thoroughly in front of the client so that they know that they're getting clean tools when worked around the mouth. Now what we're gonna do is we'll come in, we'll hit him with the foil, and we'll get up all those little hairs that are on his neck, those ones that are on his cheeks, clean those all up and get them prepped for our razor work. So one thing that I like to do is use a little bit of talcum powder on the neck. It's gonna really help our foil shaver to just glide over it really nicely. It's gonna cause less irritation if somebody has a sensitive neck. So one thing that we always want to make sure to do before we head into doing our razor work is we want to make sure that our lineup is equal for both sides, because if you head into the razor work, that's your finishing stage. And once you do the razor work, that's it. So if you have one side high, one side low, so you always want to make sure to double check before you do your razor work to make sure that your lineup is equal. How's that feeling, Harjap?
Feels good.
Come back. As usual, when we do the lineup, we use a little bit of shave gel. Lots of barbers, they just razor the cheeks and leave the mustache, the top of the mustache, just natural or raw, and it's not a complete look. All right, we'll throw the hot towel on. We'll let that sit for a minute and let the client relax. All right, so as we let that sit, what we're gonna do is we're gonna change out our razor blade and get it all prepped and ready for our lineup. We're gonna work from our top down. I'm gonna do his C-cups, hit his lineup, and then we'll get the beard. So we always wanna remember to pull the skin tight if we're gonna be doing a beard with a curve in it. The tighter we pull the skin, the more aggressive the curve will be. All right, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a little bit of enhancements just to fill in those spots that he's a little sparse in the connection of the beard here, just so we can fill those in. We get a super clean, dialed in lineup and a full beard for him. I like to use the hairspray because it makes it a little bit, it just gives a different layer on the skin, and we can scratch that layer off and really get that defined line. Now the reason why we want to do all that prep work before we use our razor is because then when we use our razor, we just have to lightly tap it and then we get those lines just perfect. How's that feeling?
Looks sick.
That was the last thing that we had to do with the hair and the beard. Now we got it nice and complete. So what we're gonna do is throw a little bit of hair product in for Harjap and get him looking absolutely dialed in. All right, so the two products I'm gonna be using is the Osis Dusted Powder. This is gonna give him some volume in his hair, give it a nice hold, but then I'm gonna throw a little bit of the Ruzel, the Concrete Hold Matte Pomade in, just to give it that little bit of extra flair. So when we apply the product, we always want to start in the back of the head, because that's usually where the hair likes to stand up the most. In the part, then we run our hands to the top. Once we get the product worked in nicely, I'll grab my comb and we'll style it with the comb. All right, my man, how's that feeling for you?
Feels awesome.
Perfect. To what it was when you came in? Perfect. All right, you guys, so that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in for our bald fade and beard demo. Show you exactly how it's done, exactly how I like to do it. We want to thank Harjap for coming in today, being a great canvas, great model, had an excellent time cutting his hair. Just want to say thank you. Thanks to Timmy, the man behind the camera, for always putting together such great content creation for us, and we'll see you on the next one.